Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Tired Mama Tries to Read. So I'm just going to do a quick review video of these 4 books. Hopefully before the man over the road stops strimming his head. She's been strimming for like an hour and this seems to be a tiny break. So first of all, I read Off the Shelf, which is a celebration of bookshops in verse. I will just say that it is amazing. There isn't a single poem in here that I didn't love. It'll just make you want to go out and just buy tons and tons of books. It's really short. It's only $8.99. Yeah, it's really, really lovely. If you don't like poetry, I know poetry isn't for everybody. I think you've maybe got to bite the bullet and just delve in and just read some out loud, because you will find something you love. I think it's just if you don't know the genre, you're a bit lost. Get a collected works and then you just find out what works for you, and just make sure you read them out loud. Just go in a room and just read them out. It'll make more sense. Yeah, maybe I'll do a poetry video at one time. The other one I read was Lucy Mangan's Bookworm. I so love this book. There's so many bits I'd love to read out to you. It's a bit of a gamble writing a book like this because she's talking very specifically about books she's read. Obviously, that makes sense that she'd do that. Eddie, come here. Don't stop barking. I knew he'd make an appearance. Sit down. Sit down. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, I think you're literally right in the camera. Lie down, will you? She's talking really specifically about books she's read. And so, in that way... There we go. That's better. That's better. There's going to be some that you haven't read. You know, I mean, I had read some of them and I was so excited when I saw some of the ones I knew. But there's obviously a lot in there that I hadn't read. I have to say, sometimes I delved in and sometimes I just skim read those ones because she was going really in depth into the characters. So there was some of it was more relevant than others. But on the whole, it was just a really beautiful reminder of how absorbed you can be in reading as a child. And even though I don't think I was as much of a bookworm as she was, although I do remember my mum telling me off for reading, which she can remember being banned from reading upstairs. So I kind of have a little bit of a similarity, but that's when I was addicted to point horrors. I don't know if you remember those. So I was reading like trash, but I was reading it all the time. Like when I was eating breakfast, when I was walking around the house, because I was just obsessed. So yeah, I still think it's a bit balmy to be mad at your child for reading, but I suppose I was going a bit OTT. So I wasn't as much of a bookworm as her, but I could relate to this idea that when you were in these books, you were just somewhere else. And the famous 5 stuff, really cool. She also talks about diversity issues in children's literature, which is really great. A bit I'll read to you is that she talks about rereading, which has totally made me rethink things. Adults tend to forget, or perhaps never appreciated in the first place, if lifelong non-readers themselves, what a vital part of the process rereading is for children. As adults, rereading seems like backtracking at best, self-indulgence at worst. Free time is such a scarce resource that we feel we should be using it only on new things. Yeah, totally see myself in that. Sometimes when I get to an end of a book I really love, I genuinely want to go back to the start and just read it again, but I feel like that would be a terrible, terrible waste of time. So I don't. And there's only a limited number of books as an adult that I've gone back and reread, again, because I feel like I don't have the time. But then when I think about all the books I studied at university, I read them so many times and I still remember them so vividly. I got so much more out of them. So yeah, of course there's a case for rereading, and it isn't a waste of your time. If you leave it long enough, then it is almost like reading a new book all over again, and you see something new. Like when I read Marilyn French's The Women's Room again, there was about a 10-year gap between readings, and I just got a totally different feeling from it on the second read. So yeah, I love that. It'll just make you want to read, and I don't think a book can do much more than that. The third one I read is There by Tommy Orange. It's truly wonderful. I can't really put into words how brilliant it is. It's so Tommy Orange is an enrolled member of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma. And you can see there's quite a lot of, well, it feels like there's a lot of autobiographical stuff in here, in some of the characters. Having said that, I mean, I don't often read books by men anymore. Not deliberately, but they just don't. I mean, I spent the first 10 years of my life reading books by men, so I kind of feel like it's okay to put them on the shelf now. Yeah, I don't read as many books by men, but this was incredible, and his female characters were amazing. There was a lot of stuff I could not relate to, because the lives of these people were just totally different to me, but the feeling behind it I could, and the women I loved. So I think that's an achievement in itself. It goes through chapter by chapter, is a different character each chapter, and then it's leading towards this powwow that's occurring in Oakland, and you kind of get a sense something is building and it's not going to be good. I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that some of the characters are obviously up to something. It's quite clearly spelt out, but I don't know why it still hits me like a ton of bricks when I did get to the final sort of 50 pages. I read them with tears in my eyes and just in awe, really. When I finished it, I actually thought, God, how am I going to read anything else now? I'm going to have a break. I didn't have a break. I just started reading the next day. But yeah, this has stayed on my mind, and I think everybody should give it a go. And the fourth book, which I haven't actually quite finished, but I am so close that I may as well put it in this video, is I Am by Maggie O'Farrell, and this is 17 Brushes with Death, so each story focuses on a different part of the body. Well, some of the body parts repeat, so it's things like neck, lungs, circulatory system, head, and if it seems a bit far-fetched that someone could come close to death 17 times, she does sort of take liberties with that idea. So we're talking sort of near misses, or times where she could have seen her path going a different way. The reviews on here, the one that stood out was Anne Patchett's, A Miracle in Every Sense, I Will Never Forget This Book. I am with you, Anne Patchett. The first story alone, I only read it yesterday, but I feel like it's going to haunt me forever. I feel like I'm never going to be able to go walking, especially alone, which I don't often do, but anyway, but without thinking of this story. I think this book is so relevant for female readers. Obviously, I'd encourage male readers to read it too, but I just feel like you'd really... Okay, Eddie. He would start barking at the end. I feel like female readers would really relate to all of these things. There's so many things that happen that are triggery, that I would say if you've had any kind of near brush with death and it really affects you, maybe don't pick up this book. I couldn't even name the amount of things that happen. There's... I will say one thing, there's birth trauma and there's miscarriages. So I know that those are particularly big trigger points. So but she deals with them incredibly well. So it actually might be a healing experience to read them. Definitely recommend. There we go. Yeah, I've done these, and the next video I'm going to do, if I've got time, is I got tagged by the lovely Doris from Aldi Books. And so she did a sort of mid-year review, and so I'm going to try and do one too. Okay, see you in a bit.